Have you ever heard a story so pure, so full of love and loyalty that it stays with you forever? Today, we're going to share one such story, a tale that has touched hearts across the world for nearly a century. This is the incredible true story of Hachiko, the dog who never gave up. Our story begins in 1924 in the bustling city of Tokyo. A tiny, fluffy Akita puppy arrives at the home of Hidesaburo Ueno, a kind professor at the University of Tokyo. Professor Ueno names him Hechi, meaning 8 in Japanese, a number considered lucky. From the very first moment, an unbreakable bond formed between them. Hachi grew from a playful puppy into a magnificent cream-colored Akita. He wasn't just a pet. He was the professor's shadow, his constant companion. Their days fell into a comforting rhythm, a routine born of pure affection. Every single morning, without fail, Hachi would walk with Professor Ueno to Shibuya Station. He'd watch his best friend board the train to work, his tail wagging until the train disappeared from sight. And then he would wait. But his wait wasn't a lonely one. At precisely 3 p.m., as if guided by an internal clock of love, Hachi would trot back to the station. He'd sit patiently, his eyes scanning the crowds of commuters pouring out of the exit. He knew the exact train his professor would be on. And every day, among the sea of faces, he would spot his beloved owner. The moment Professor Ueno stepped onto the platform, Hachi's tail would erupt in a blur of joy. Their happy reunion was a daily spectacle of pure, unadulterated love, a sight that brought smiles to the faces of other commuters and station workers. This was their life, simple, happy, and perfect. But on May 21st, 1925, everything changed. The morning started just like any other. Hachi walked the professor to the station, gave a final tail wag, and watched him leave. Later that afternoon at 3 p.m., Hachi returned to his usual spot, his heart full of anticipation. The train arrived, the crowds poured out, but this time his professor wasn't among them. Hachi waited. The next train came, and the next. The station slowly emptied, the sun began to set, but still no Professor Ueno. What Hachi could unknow was that Professor Ueno had suffered a sudden cerebral hemorrhage while giving a lecture at the university. He had passed away, never to return to Shibuya Station again. Hachi waited long into the night, confused and worried. Eventually he went home, but the next day, at 3 p.m., he was back at the station. And the day after that? And the day after that? Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Hachi was initially taken in by relatives, but he would repeatedly escape, always running back to the one place he knew, the place he last saw his best friend. He would run back to Shibuya Station, hoping this would be the day the professor came home. Time marched on. The seasons changed around Hachi. The vibrant cherry blossoms of spring gave way to the sweltering heat of summer. Autumn leaves fell around him, and the cold winter snow dusted his loyal, waiting form. Through rain, wind, and sun, Hachi remained. He was a constant, silent sentinel at the station gates. At first, some of the station workers and vendors were not so kind. They saw him as a stray, a nuisance. But one of the professor's former students, who had studied Akitas, recognized Hachi. He followed the dog from the station to the home of the professor's former gardener, where Hachi was now staying, and learned his story. Moved by this incredible display of loyalty, the student began to write articles about Hachi for a major Tokyo newspaper. Suddenly, everyone knew his name. The story of the faithful dog of Shibuya captured the imagination of the entire nation. Hachi was no longer a stray. He became a hero. People started calling him Chukin Hachiko, which means faithful dog Hachiko. Commuters who had once ignored him now brought him food and water. They would stop to gently pat his head and speak words of encouragement, their hearts aching for his unwavering vigil. He became a living symbol of devotion, a lesson in loyalty for all of Japan. Children were brought to the station to see him, to learn from his example of faithfulness and love. For nearly 10 years, Hachiko kept his vigil. He grew old and frail. His gait was slower, his fur a little more matted, but his spirit never wavered. His eyes, though clouded with age, still searched every face that came through the station gates, forever looking for the one that mattered most. Then, on the morning of March 8, 1935, Hachiko was found lying peacefully on a street near Shibuya Station. He had passed away, he was finally at rest. After almost a decade of waiting, his long wait was over. It's said that in his final moments, he dreamt of his happy reunion with Professor Ueno. The news of his death was a national event. His passing made the front page of newspapers. People from all over mourned, leaving flowers at the station. But Hachiko's story was far from over. A year before his death, the people of Tokyo had already honored him by erecting a bronze statue in his exact waiting spot outside Shibuya Station. It was a tribute to his incredible loyalty, ensuring he would wait there forever. During World War II, the original statue was melted down for the war effort, a sad necessity of the times. But Hachiko's memory was too powerful to be forgotten. After the war, a new statue was commissioned and unveiled in 1948. Today, that statue stands as one of Tokyo's most famous landmarks. Millions of people visit it every year. The Hachiko exit at Shibuya Station is a popular meeting spot, a place where friends and loved ones reunite, right where Hachiko waited so patiently for his. Hachiko's story teaches us about the profound depth of love and the enduring power of loyalty. It reminds us that the bonds we form can transcend even time and death. It's a simple story of a dog waiting for his owner, but it's also a universal story about hope, devotion, and a love that never, ever gives up. Thank you for joining us to hear the story of Shuken Hachiko. If his story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories from history. We'll see you next time.